Hey everyone, welcome back for part 3 of the restoration series on this Rikaket N-33H Rondine turntable. Before we get to working on continuing the restoration project today, I wanted to get into a little bit with the old Tonearm. Now, in the original video on this, I had said that this Tonearm was, for all intents and purposes, destroyed. And while I consider that to be the case, there are others that would tell you that I'm wrong, and quite frankly, that's true. Keep in mind that I'm still very much so a novice at doing things like this, and so this is well beyond my skill level, and I don't have the appropriate tools to work on this Tonearm. But there are others that have been doing this for far longer that have the ability to restore this Tonearm to its original state, to rework the finish and get the pitting out of it, and to fix the sagging counterweight assembly, and to replace the head shell on this, which, by the way, this is an ESL S1000 Tonearm. I did some research on it. So I'm not going to throw out this Tonearm. What I'm going to do instead is I found somebody on the Audio Karma forums that does restorations on Tonearms like this, and I've offered to donate this Tonearm to him so that he can do a restoration on it. I did not ask for any monetary value in return, simply because this turntable was donated to me, so it wouldn't really be right for me to ask for money for this, and I opted to donate it instead. So I'm gonna get that in the mail here shortly and off to him for restoration, and hopefully it will live a new life on another turntable and get a lot more years of wonderful use. With that out of the way, let's get back to doing the restore. Okay, so the next portion of this video is going to be modifying the base so that we can take the Tonearm base and put it down through this hole. Now, when we last left you guys, what we had discussed was that I was going to leave the base on the plinth and then put something underneath here just to make sure everything was safe. But we needed to have some distance off of the table so that I wouldn't accidentally damage that. I've since thought about that and think I've come up with a better solution. But in order to carry out that solution, we're going to need to conjure up a few tools and materials to make it happen. So I think we're going to use the power of magic on this one and conjure up a few tools. Everybody ready? 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! Okay, so what we've got here is we've got a drill, some masking tape. We've got a 30mm drill bit that's designed to make holes. This one is tungsten carbide, so it should be able to drill through this. And then we've got 2 sets of 2x4 scrap back here that I had on hand. And what we're going to do is, instead of leaving this in the plinth, we're going to go ahead and take the 2x4 that we have and put the base down on it and use the screw holes that are already here, drill down, make some pilot holes, and then use the screws that we have for this to mount the base down to this 2x4. And the advantage to this is on the back side, we've got a set here that's lined up so that when we mount it using the holes on these 2 sides, we'll have a 2x4 that sits right in the same spot as the hole back here. And the reasoning for that is this bit has a drill bit in it in the center for a pilot hole to hold it steady. And if I were to just
leave this as is and go down through the hole as it currently sits, well, it's got nothing to grip onto and it could move around, and we don't want that. We want that to stay steady. So we're going to give it something to bite into. So let's go ahead and get the base off of the plinth and get it mounted onto this 2x4 and get to masking off and marking and drilling. Alright, we're on. Good deal. Now, next thing on the list that we need to do is do a measurement from the center of the hole out here. Before we do that, we're going to go ahead and mask off around where the current hole's at, so that we've got a nice clean surface to work on that I won't scuff up when we start drilling through it. Okay, this doesn't have to be an exact perfect measurement, it's just got to be close. We've got on the head shell, pull that out, these are the mounting holes for the cartridge, and helps if it's in frame. On the head shell, we've got these holes to mount the cartridge on. You can see you've got some room to move it around. So as long as we get close to the 214 millimeters, we'll be doing good. The goal is to achieve basically the distance from the center of, when you've got the Tonearm out this way, from the center of here to the center of the Tonearm pivot plus 15 millimeters is what you're looking for in terms of where the needle should fall as the Tonearm moves toward the center here. I'll get more into that later, but let's go ahead and measure this out and go ahead and start drilling. Alright, we got that. Got this. I'm going to get from the center. That's about where the center is. I want to, that's where the hole currently is. I'm going to go 214 millimeters. Actually, what I think I'd like to do, just so I've got a point of reference, is fill in where the current hole's at, so I've got a good measurement marker here, which direction I need to go with this. Okay, center of the platter to this direction, 214 millimeters. Okay, so this is 200, this is 210, this is 214 at the center. So we're going to go ahead and mark here. It'll be right about that spot. That's going to be the center where we want to start drilling at. And if we take our drill bit and we hold it over here, you can see the edge of this is just about over where we need to be. So we might bring it in just a pinch so we're not leaving a weird gap or anything. Like I said, we just got to be close. It doesn't have to be perfect. If I'm down over it, that's looking good. All right, that's where we're gonna drill from. All right, now I'm going to be very, very careful about how I do this. Keep in mind, this turntable is roughly 60 years in age right now. Maybe a little older, maybe a little newer. But in any case, I only get one chance at this. So we're gonna take this nice and slow. I'm gonna go ahead and make an adjustment so I'm not standing way over here. We're gonna go ahead and turn this. So I'm working from this point closest to it. Go ahead and move that forward so we're in frame better. Alright. Very gingerly now. Alright, we are now at the point where we're going to start drilling into the base. This is the point of no return, so wish me luck. And there it is. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video here and do some cleanup, and then we'll be back to take a look at what we ended up with. This is the chunk that we ended up taking out to drill the new hole. And you'll see it here first. If it doesn't fit and I messed up, you guys are gonna know it right along with me. Here's the Tonearm mounting base, 30mm diameter hole. And it fits down in there just like a glove. Perfect. It even covers up the original screw holes from the last Tonearm mounting base. So we'll go ahead and get this back off of these 2x4s, put it back in the plinth, and we're going to go ahead and do some drilling down in here to make new screw holes for this. I've gone ahead and done a little bit of off-camera work here to prepare for this, in order to make sure I don't do any damage to this before it gets mounted. I went ahead and masking taped around it, and then I'm masking it taped around the hole so that we can mark those holes off with some Sharpie and then drill through them. So we're going to set that down in there. And this is forward, that direction. This is the front of the turntable, so this needs to point that direction. Just go ahead and make sure that we're lined up properly here. And then we'll go ahead and make our marks. Okay, so we made a mistake here. Or rather, I made a mistake here. And you know, what's this channel without some mistakes? That's half the fun. I put this on here in this fashion and said that that was the front, that going this direction was the front of the turntable. And that's quite clearly not true. Let me back you out for a second. You can see the motor's over here. Here's where the platter's at. And the power switch and pilot light are off this direction. So clearly, that's not the front. That's the front. So I took this out, realigned it the right way, made new marks for the holes so that it's on here in the correct orientation, which would be like that. And we're going to go ahead and use those new marks and drill through. I've already got the bit ready, so let's go ahead and do that next. Alright, we had to go back and make some modifications. I missed pretty wildly on that last hole. Fortunately, the base is just wide enough to cover up the edge of where I cut into. But we've got all 3 holes drilled for the base now, for the Tonearm base. And we do this, we get all 3 screws. So, next thing that we're going to do is going to be to work on the plinth, and then after that we will start on reassembly and get the Tonearm mounted. Okay, now just a moment ago I had told you that the base for this covered up the excess hole size from the screw hole that I made too wide under this side, but after I got the masking tape off I found out that's not exactly the case. If you look over there you can definitely see that. So you'll probably hear the 3D printer running in the background. What we're going to do is cover up the mistake by making a 2mm diameter extension to this that is chamfered so that it meets up at the bottom of this, but it's 2mm wider at the bottom to cover up that particular portion, and that's about the best I'm going to be able to do with that. So when that's finished printing, we will be right back. Okay, last part that we should need is off of the print bed. Here it is. It's got a chamfered side on it, narrow at the top, wider at the bottom, so it covers the hole and then meets flush up with the Tonearm base. Let's make sure it fits. Should fit on here just so. Perfect. Excellent. Take a look at that from the side. Looks like it lines up pretty darn good. We'll go ahead and place it in. If we can get it in there the right way. There we go. Okay, it is in. And if we go look over here, the side, yeah, you can see just the tiniest little bit peeking out, but that's not so bad. You gotta really be looking for it. So I think we're gonna go ahead and go with that. From an aesthetic point, it doesn't really detract or take away anything from the Tonearm base since it's printed in black as well. So, alright, let's go ahead and move on to the plinth. It's been a few days since the last part of this video got recorded. It's just kind of been crazy around here. But I have finally started to have some time to work on the plinth. Now, I don't have an appropriate wood shop to do this work, so I've been doing this outside. So I'm not going to video that, but I'll keep everybody updated as this gets finished. I took some 120 grit sandpaper and a sander and went to town on this one side, and you can see the finish is coming off quite nicely. By comparison, if you look over at this side, this is the original finish still on there. So I'm going to keep working away at it. It actually shouldn't take me too long to do this. The finish is actually coming off quite quickly, so I don't think this was a very thick finish. I don't think they used very many. I don't think they coated this with more than maybe 2 coats of finish when they did this. So we'll keep cracking away at it, and when it's finished, we'll be back. I'm now done sanding. As you can see, looking at it from a few different sides here, things turned out pretty nicely. I ended up moving down to an 80 grit on the side simply because the stain wasn't coming off as well as I thought it was with the 120. So we did the sides in 80 and then moved to a 120 for finishing and to get the corners and the top edge here, and then went back over it with a 220 to kind of smooth it out and get anything else out that I had missed, and then went over it again with a 220 on a random orbit sander just to make sure that I didn't leave any other weirdness in the wood before this gets stained. Now, that being said, I don't know that I have the stain that I want yet for this, so this is probably where we're going to leave this video, and when we come back for part 4, I will have this stained and finished already, and we will begin reassembly of this turntable. Now, as to whether or not we get to full assembly and calibration of the tone arm in the next video. We'll just kind of have to play that by ear and see how things go in the next video. I like to keep these things to a watchable length, so this may roll into a 5th part, but we'll just have to kind of see. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll return and watch part 4 as we continue the restoration on this turntable. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.